audible?
Yes, Harsha, you're audible.
Hey,
Mahesh here.
Yes, hi. Well, thanks for joining everybody, and nice to have Mahesh and Dr. Pinaki as well. So just to give a quick introduction to the viewers and all the other people who will be watching this later on. Hi, I'm Shri Harsha from ArtBuRt. We are an online gallery that promotes photography and artworks through digital exhibits that we host on our smart TV and smartphone application called ImageIn. And currently we are talking to Dr. Pinaki Baidya and Mahesh Kondwalkar. And as the exhibit status suggests, it's primarily a nature-based photography exhibit that we are reviewing today. And the exhibit is available for all to see for this next upcoming week on the ImageIn application for free. And before we get started, I think it is best that we have both Mahesh and Dr. Pinaki introduce themselves. While I said that, I will hand the mic over to Mahesh. Mahesh, if you can start by introducing yourself, and then Dr. Pinaki can take over and introduce yourself. You can probably give out the type of photography you do as well, so that will give the audience a better understanding on the work that you do.
Sure, Harsha. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for hosting this. So to start with about myself, I consider myself a hobbyist and a learner of art, and photography is one of the art expressions that I have been actively pursuing as a hobby. Probably been into photography for almost 15 years, and my art is actually driven by curiosity and wonderment about what I see around me or what I experience when I see something around me. And it is also partly driven by the sort of, school level training that I got in, say, drawing, painting, those art forms. I never really stuck to anything in particular, but it was just something that I used to like a lot, and I think it has influenced my photography as well. So I really consider the camera as a means of expression, just as I would consider a paintbrush as a means of expression. And generally speaking, I dabble in everything. um, so I try not to be restricted or confined to a genre or to a rule. So, it's been a dream of mine to handhold 600 effective focal length. So that's something I've been doing very often recently, thanks to my lightweight kit. But when it comes to, again, just to gear, I prefer zoom lenses over primes, and that will become evident as we go through the exhibit. Just because it just gives me a lot of freedom when I'm with a zoom lens. So that's about me.
All right. Nice to have you on, Mahesh. Look forward to having this nice, fruitful discussion with you. Dr. Pinaki, your camera is turned sideways. So if you can tilt the phone,
okay, I can tilt.
That will help.
I mean,
yeah, better now.
Is it okay?
Yes, now it's fine.
To adjust it. Now it's okay. Hello?
Now it's, yes, now it's fine.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Myself, I am Dr. Pinaki Baidya, actually surgeon by profession. And like Mr. Mahesh, I was also a hobbyist actually. But later, I became an enthusiast photographer. Especially my subject is mainly wildlife, and out of wildlife, I like bird photography most. I do other types of photography also, especially landscapes and sometimes macro works also. And I am in photography for almost 12 to 13 years. Specifically after when I was posted in Darjeeling, it was a nice place. And from there, I started my photographic journey. And I usually like to depict the animal life, their beauty, their emotions and the actions that is happening in our surrounding areas, and that I like to depict through my pictures. And this gives me relaxation, I can say, out of my busy schedule. If I can take a few hours for wildlife photography in the woods, then it becomes relaxing for me, because I'm always stressed with my work. As a surgeon, I'm always busy with my work. That is the thing. And now I am feeling that it has come a long way, and I am going towards more towards wildlife photography and more enthusiastically. And I needed further improvements in my gear. And previously, I used to use big lenses with big cameras, and as I am aging, and I find it difficult to carry those gears, and so I am shifting towards compact camera and lenses system, that is Olympus to say. And I'm really enjoying photography after using Olympus systems. And this is the first time I'm coming to my exhibition online. It's a new experience. Previously, I published my works in some newspapers and journals, but not through this type of platform. So thanks to Mr. Siyasa and ArtBuRt.
Yeah, good to have you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you haven't tried working out in the gym to lift heavy equipment. You chose to use a lighter equipment instead.
No, I have already used for last, say, 10 years now, 10, 11 years. After that, I thought that it is very cumbersome because if you go to the hills during hiking, it's very cumbersome to carry those 4 or 5 kilo lens and camera combination. If you carry a tripod along with that, this becomes very difficult for oneself.
Right. So good. Nice to have an introduction from both of you. So one of the first questions that actually crept in my mind when I was reviewing both of your images, Doctor and Rahul, was that you both have a very different way of what you can say style in your photography. So how did you even come upon pairing the two of you and putting a common exhibit together? So on one side, Mahesh, you have a very abstracty work, and which is more of conceptual work. And Doctor, you have a very documentative style. So how did this exhibit come into place in your thoughts?
So it's a bit of yin and yang. If you look at it that way, it's also a bit of contrast. And I mean, there are different ways of viewing the same site or viewing the same scene or appreciating nature. A person could zoom in and admire the minute details of the feathers of a bird or their eye or their beak or how they are even in their habitat. So that leads us to a direct appreciation of nature. At the same time, if a person takes a step back, then there are patterns to be discovered, colors to be seen. So there's the zoomed in scale and the zoomed out scale when you step back, and putting those together, we may have seen a lot of those videos where you start from 10,000 feet and you zoom into an atom sort of thing. I mean, of course, you're not doing it that way, but it's kind of in that spirit. Yeah.
Right. Doctor, do you have anything to add on to it? I mean, all the images in this exhibit are exceptionally beautiful. But what is your take on these two different genres of photography that we are currently showcasing here? So you were saying, comparing these two types of photography, one was...
I actually depicted mainly the actions in the avian kingdom. That means in between birds there is action taking place, and I tried to depict that thing in my photographs. And actually, if you can see closely, you will see there are some emotions also in some pictures. there are some emotions, some moments
Right.
that are rarely seen.
Right.
Like one merganser that is flapping wings, two woodpecker, they're closely perched on a perch. Okay, so I tried to these two photographs, these two Rodi Selder. Okay, so they actually tell a story and depicts a moment that can evoke a emotion in the viewer's mind.
Right.
So this is basically same thing. The one photograph, photography objective of a photograph is to evoke an emotion in the viewer's mind.
Right.
I tell a story through the picture. That I have tried my best in these photographs. That is the thing.
Nice. I mean, you have all your images, Doctor, are all crisp, fast shutter shots with action frozen in time. So while that is on one side, Mahesh, you have a lot of images that are have deliberately induced handshake, if I can call it that, right? So these are the two different contrasting styles that I see between both of you. And if I can, show one of Mahesh's photographs here, like I say. Now, this is a deliberately induced shake in your photograph. So, Doctor, what do you do in your any special technique that you use to avoid having shakes in your picture? And on the same, Mahesh, any specific techniques that you use on your side to get shake in your images? I mean, these are two different ends, if I can call it that, on the way you showcase and present your photographs.
Yeah, definitely. You need to keep some settings in advance so that you can take the bird flight or some moments action that is happening very fast, maybe in a fraction of second. So you have to be always ready.
Right.
And I usually keep my shutter speed very high, usually 1/2000 for smaller birds, and for bigger birds it may be adequate 1/1600 second. And aperture as wide aperture as possible. Sometimes I stop down, maybe one stop, and I have to wait for action actually. And that is the patience. I have to keep patience for action to happen, and then I have to just take the shot. And that is the thing for secret for action photography, and that is the secret for crisp, sharp shot for images.
So does this also go with you shooting in good light or using high ISO to compensate in case there is no light, so that you get a fast shutter speed?
Definitely, if the light is low, then you have to increase the ISO, and it will maybe increase the noise level also. But sometimes it give a artistic feeling in that picture also. Like you see in this image, there is I think ISO was higher, and there is a certain artistic feeling due to the noise. It's not presenting as noise, but it is giving a feeling of some blurred background, that is the forest background or bushes, and that gives a good feeling also. And if there is not very much light, then I have to abandon actually sports shooting. That means the action shooting. Then I have to try some other types of photography, like the bird perched on some twigs, something like that.
Got it. And how about you, Mahesh? What is the technique you use to get those deliberately induced shakes?
So, the main challenge, Harsha, is to make the movement appear artistic, because the key is to know and to experiment enough so that one knows when to stop. Otherwise, there's just a blur and nothing is visible. So it's about, typically for every image or frame that I like, I might be deleting anywhere between 20 to 30 of them. And of course, the idea is to try different. The idea is to convey a transience, a transition, or a transience. So it's a different kind of action that we are talking about, where something is changing. Rather than again, I'm not for or against either type of photography. I like to do both, and often one leads to another. So really speaking, the most important thing that really works for me is having a huge focal length range at my disposal. So I like to play between, if I could get something at 10 mm, the wider I can get or the longer I can go. So from 10 mm to 600 mm, that would be my ideal playground. So I've gone to the long end, and I'm talking about effective focal lengths here. So at the long end, as soon as I got my hands on a lens that I could handhold and get 600 focal length, that's what I was playing with a lot of the time. Then now I'm also trying to go to the wider end. So that gives me variety of. So I'm never locked into one focal length. I'm always taking a step back or zooming in. So when I look at the clouds, I want to feel like I'm floating in the clouds instead of just appreciating them in the context of a landscape. So then I will go in very long. On the other hand, if I do want to convey the context of the kites which are soaring, there is some context there. So then I would have to pull back rather than, and I don't want to focus on the details of the birds. Rather, I want to focus on the pattern there. When it comes to trees, the thing is, sometimes when I create this art, my wish is next time somebody looks at a regular tree, maybe they will think of what I had done with a similar tree somewhere else, because otherwise, we don't really pause and stop and think, okay, maybe that will lead to somebody having a recollection. Okay, I had seen some picture where somebody did some artistic camera movement with the trees. But the trick, like I said, is experimenting with different shutter speeds. Often I am, at f22 just so that I can slow down the camera enough, because usually my shutter speed is between 1 second to 6 seconds. It depends. And the other thing is, I rely heavily on image stabilization, which sounds counterintuitive, because here I'm moving the camera and shaking the camera, but then I'm talking about image stabilization. But I need that just so that I can get the smoothness of the curves and the lines. I don't want it to have a jagged edge somewhere. So that's where the image stabilization of the kit matters a lot for me. And of course, I need to be able to hold it for a very long time, because like I said, for every single image, I might be experimenting with so many others that I need to be able to just play. It should feel like a toy in my hands, not something that weighs me down. That's really what helps me. Yeah.
So would this also mean that you, on the other side, look for low light conditions, and if not be, use something like an ND filter on your lenses to bring down the exposure? Yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think one of the things that I found very fascinating was that you do use, as you said, image stabilization to induce shake, which is quite counterintuitive, as you rightly said.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good learning. I mean, this is something that even I'm excited to try out and give a shot the next time I'm on the field. I'm actually been quite impressed by your portfolio of images. Very artistically done and very nice. Especially this one.
Glad to hear that.
This is a beautiful image, and I'm sure this will look brilliant as a nice wall hanging as a triptych. One thing, you have these wavy lines, grass maybe perhaps, or tree leaves, and on the other side you have these sharper dots, yellow dots, which kind of complement the waviness of the background. I mean, it is difficult to express those feelings in thoughts, but definitely when you see them big, either on print or on TV, for those of you who may want, you can see this on TV as well. The feeling is quite transitionary. So very, very well done and executed, I must say. And I can really appreciate the effort that goes into making these kind of images. So on that same front, Mahesh, what is the most important thing for you as an abstract visual artist in this front? So as we said, most of your images here tend towards being abstract. And even though this image, like for example, has a sharp subject without any shake, it still has that abstracty feel to it. So what is the emotion that you're trying to drive when you're making your images?
So it's definitely a lot about the situation. So let's say if I'm at a bird sanctuary, then I would really first try to make good pictures of the birds in flight, etc. But eventually, let's say you've been watching a pelican for say 30 minutes and you've really taken all the pictures you could. So that's when the abstract starts. Okay, now what can I do with this bird, right? It's sitting there, I'm sitting here, so let me try to appreciate it in a different way. So you get used to the idea of the sight, then you start thinking beyond the visual and you start going to the emotion, and then you want to capture the emotion of what you're feeling. It could be wonderment, it could be being just awestruck, it could be feeling diminutive when you're looking at clouds during monsoon, or the sunset when you see just huge spectrum of colors. The fact that you can appreciate, so there are so many emotions that one feels, and the idea is to try and capture maybe one or two of them in at a time. And again, though, once it is captured, it can mean different things to different people, because it's like a mirror. An abstract frame is like a mirror. um, Two people looking at it would experience it in very different ways. So this one, I call it the cloud surfer. I consider it like a rousing frame for myself, where this thing is, just getting out of the clouds, or maybe riding the clouds like a surfer would ride waves. So it's got some energy in it when I look at it. um, the one that we saw before, it's got an effervescence, it's got some an ethereal feeling that things are changing but still going upward. So that's kind of an emotion that gets conveyed. That's really my effort. But it's about, first of all, what I felt at that time, and just try to make it in a way that others might be able to appreciate nature.
Right. On the other hand, Adil saying he really likes the cloud surfer image, this image. Thank you, Adil.
Thank you,
Nice to
Adil.
have you on board. And yeah, I do understand, probably in a sense, the whatever emotions that you try to get. And one point for the viewers, I think, who are getting into photography and trying to get into serious photography, Mahesh gave out a very valid point in that the first few, probably 20% of the time that you are on the field, it's all about capturing and documenting shots. And after that, you will have this 80% of the time where you would just need to sit and think and probably improvise on the shots that you made and try to do things which have not been done. Rather, you bag your record shot, and after that you can try playing around with it and try to experiment different things, which again is a very valid technique. And I think everybody should follow that at some point to improve, or improve their abstract skills as well.
And speaking of emotions, Harsha, sorry to jump in there, but speaking of emotions, the emotion that we often feel when we see Dr. Pinaki's photos is jealousy, because he gets access to so many different species of birds, and his pictures are so beautiful that all of us have been asking, when can we come there? Because that's really the frequently asked question for him, I believe.
Where do you stay, by the way, Dr. Pinaki?
Yeah.
Where do you stay? Hello?
Hello? I can't hear you properly.
Where do you stay? Are you close by to a water?
I stay actually in Jalpaiguri district. You can say both the district I live in Darjeeling also, in Siliguri.
Right, right.
I stay, my family is there, and I work in Jalpaiguri district. There also I stay for almost 5 days in a week. So I live in 2 districts, and these districts are full of forests and the hill ranges and rivers like that. I can see a lot of wildlife here, especially birds. In Neora Valley National Park near Lava, this is I can say that this is a hotspot for birds.
Brilliant. I guess you are one of those lucky few who have easy access to these kind of wonderful creatures. Now, coming back to you, Dr. Pinaki, I mean, how important is it for you to study the subjects that you are about to photograph? I mean, I'm sure you would have grown up watching these birds come in and go fly around, but what is the importance of studying your subjects that you're photographing before you, actually trip the shutter?
Yeah, actually, you need to study the birds before you go for shooting. If you want to take shots of some water birds like in a water body, then you have to think about the season, about the birds that you can see there, and what type of birds and their behaviors, also behavioral pattern. If you are going in the woods, then you have to think of that season that you can get, probably expect the birds there and how to shoot them. Maybe some birds will prefer some dark places. I have seen some birds, those birds are usually around rivers, like red stars, like that. And if you go for these water birds like seldak, like those other birds that are captured, those are in water birds. They have some other type of behaviors. They come for wintering. They're basically migratory birds and stay here for maybe 2 to 3 months max. So I have to plan accordingly. I have to know what time I can get them and what light I can shoot them. That will be plus point. See, sometimes there is a picnic season during December, in December end and January first week. There will be a lot of crowd there. So this is not a good time for shooting this type of birds there. I have shot these birds in Gajaldova wetland, and so I have to plan accordingly. Usually I go in November or first week, second week of December, or maybe in the month of February. So like that, you have to study the bird, their behavioral pattern, and like that, their habitat, everything before planning for shooting.
Right. Any rare sightings, Doctor, that you have any rare birds that you've seen and photographed?
They are in the sense that some birds I have found here, those are not usually found in this area. Like last year, one Devonsali crane came here in Jalpaiguri, in the Tista river bed, and that created a headline in the newspapers all over West Bengal, because it is not usually seen in this area. It's usually seen in northern India.
Yeah, Rajasthan.
So, I went there, and there were a lot of crowds actually. Many photographers from other parts of the state also came there, and I recorded that bird also. And sometimes I was roaming here around my working place. I took some rare birds, in the sense that it is not found this area, like common rose finch. I found just a few months ago. Nice. That is not here. It is found usually in the colder places, colder climate, like hilly regions. But I found in plains, Jalpaiguri. So like that, you get to see some rare birds if you watch carefully around you.
Right. So this also means that you have a good knowledge about ornithology and the bird taxonomy or the distribution.
First thing is, I think for bird photography, you have to be a bird watcher, I think. I have to have some knowledge about the birds, and eventually you get to know about the birds, their names and their habitat, everything, ID, everything you get to know.
Nice, nice, nice. I guess that's how we should all try. I mean, even I was a bird watcher and then a bird photographer, nature lover, and then a landscape photographer. So I guess that's a common pattern which everybody follows, which is very valid and very true. And I think it makes the photography more fulfilling as well, if I can call that. So Mahesh, on to you. Is there any special image, any favorite image? Now we know what Adil and Venkat called as their favorite image, which was the earlier image we were talking about. But from your point of view, is there any image that you call as your favorite, and any behind the story, behind the scenes stories of that particular image?
That's a tricky one. It changes
I can bring
by
that
the
up
day.
on the screen.
So yeah, I mean, my favorite image changes depending on the day or the mood. But if you were to ask me to actually pin one down as of today, that would probably be the same one that we discussed as a triptych. The ethereal is the name of that.
Acha, okay.
Yep.
Right.
I like that picture most.
Thank you so much, Doctor. So this one actually, it was made at, I think, around between 5 to 6 p.m. And I was just gazing out the window, and being close to the golden hour, or during the golden hour, the sunlight was bouncing off of these flowers on a tree. And that's when I started playing around with different ideas, how to just and I knew that this is about just a 20-minute window that I had, after which that light would be gone, it would be elsewhere. I would not. So there was that moment of transition, and that's kind of what's coming up here. At the same time, there was a good feeling of getting to watch these colors. It's a bright color, it's an uplifting color. So that's something that does, I hope, come through the image. It's an effervescence, like I said, where things are going upwards in the image. The lines are directional. And apart from this one, there were many others that I tried, the diagonal compositions, the zoom compositions, etc. This is the one that finally was the one that I kept coming back to. So technically speaking, like I said, I think.
And what are those yellow dots?
So those are flowers, actually.
Okay. And what tree was this?
I'm very bad at tree names.
It's a tree.
Sorry to say that. Yeah.
It's a tree. With flowers.
Right. So I honestly do not know the name, but I should have a few sharp images of it as well, and I will need to ask someone.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fine. I mean, the beauty of it is irrespective of the name or the biological classification of the tree. That's just a curious question. Yeah, that's very nice. And we have Venkat, who's just asked a question. But how about we take the questions towards the end? I just want to finish off a couple of more questions, one to Dr. Pinaki and one to you, Mahesh, in terms of how important do you think your equipments are to present your visuals? Like, for example, Dr. Pinaki, as we discussed, you have images that are sharp and crisp and clear. So how do you gauge your equipment to ensure, or how do you evaluate your equipment to ensure you get these kind of sharp, crisp shots? What is the most important thing for you on that?
Yes, definitely gears are important. Actually, it is commonly said that the gear doesn't matter, the person behind the camera matters. But I think over the years, I experienced different problems with the gears. And I think gears is also an important part of photography. So if you use a appropriate gear, then you can better express yourself, you can take better photographs. And after I changed to light compact setup, Olympus with Olympus EM1 Mark II body and 100 to 400 zoom, then I think I was free to take anytime shot. That means in a moment's notice, in a fraction of a second's notice, I can take a shot. That is the thing.
Got it. So yeah, so for you, it's important right now to have a camera system that's lightweight, easy to handle, and
that is very
available.
fast focusing.
Yeah.
And then and that can take efficiently the photo also. And moreover, the Olympus has IV system that is, I think, very beneficial. Getting the sharp shot even at lower shutter speeds. I have taken some bird shots at around 1/200 or 1/160. And that is, I think, unimaginable. Like I am using a zoom that is 100 to 400. That is around 200 to 800 in full flame equivalent term, and I am keeping the shutter speed very low. Even then I am getting the sharp result, and that is
nice.
Great thing.
Good. Nice to know that. Nice to know that. And Mahesh, what is the most important thing for you in your equipment choice for getting your kind of images?
I can say from experience that I need the equipment. I need to be able to practice enough. There is a 10,000 hours of practice principle. I need to be able to practice enough that it becomes an extension of me. I need to have that muscle memory that I can change the settings without having to take my eye off. Know the ins and outs of the gear. And so if I need to practice that much, I should be able to hold it that way. So being a light kit, that's the most important thing for me. And then the next thing, like I said before, is I need the ability to have a very long focal length range, not long, but a big spectrum of focal lengths with me without having to swap too many lenses.
Right. So what is the lens that you carry? Do you have one long telephoto or?
So I have so two lenses are my workhorses in this. One is the 12-100, which actually becomes 24 to 200 due to the MFT crop factor, and then the other is a 40 to 150 on which I put a 2 times teleconverter. So that becomes effectively 160-600 for me.
Wow.
So the 160-600 is the one that ends up getting used a lot for trees, etc., which are distant. The 1200 is used for other kinds of things. The thing is, I just with these two lenses, I am covering from 24 to 600.
Got it. And these are all handholdable.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. And do you also give importance to noise performance, given that you do long exposures and?
Yes, of course. Because in the end, of course, there is motion, but then the noise does make an appearance. At the same time, I try to keep my images well exposed, because once something is well exposed, then noise is not a problem. Noise is a problem only if it is an underexposed image. So like Dr. Baidya said just now, he drops the shutter speed if required so that he can get enough light. And that's the key, So noise is a problem only if it's underexposed. And I try, unless I want deliberately underexposed images, then I'm going to drop down, increase the shutter speed, etc. Otherwise, I don't find myself going into post-processing just to bump up the exposure. I don't do that. I'm already at the exposure that I need when I take the shot.
Got it. Well, it's been really nice speaking to you both, and thank you so much for spending your time. Before we wrap up, we do have a small window that we can open up for questions in case anybody has anything to ask either Dr. Pinaki or Mahesh. While others think of the question, we already have one in the waiting room from Venkat, who asks about this image, if I'm not mistaken. I'm guessing, asking about multiple exposure. Was this a multiple exposure? If yes, how?
That's right.
How did you
That's
do
right.
this?
That's right.
Venkat, this is the image that you are referring to, I hope.
And in fact, Harsha Venkat also knows the name of those yellow flowers. I just don't know how to pronounce it, but I don't know if he's put it in the chat window. Venkat, if you're able to unmute yourself, maybe you can let us know the name of that tree. There we go. I don't know if you can. Yeah, sorry.
Tabe Bula. Tabe Buya.
Right.
Okay, what does that mean?
So that's, I think, the
Is a software
scientific name. The scientific name, I think, of the flowers, of the tree, I mean.
Okay. The name of the tree. Okay.
The scientific name of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So, so over to this picture. Now, this was, I think, so like I said, I was just gazing out the window. It was a sunset. There were kites just soaring on these air currents, the convection air currents. It's called thermal soaring, I believe. And they were going in spirals upwards. And I was fascinated by it. And I was trying to figure out how to convert this 3D spiral into a two-dimensional representation. Because if I tried a few shots and it looked like they were just randomly scattered around the sky, there was no pattern to it. Then I realized that this pattern was being formed over time. So I needed a way to compress the time into one frame, and that's why I did a multiple exposure. So what we are looking at is an overlay of the flight paths of a few kites. And this was all handheld. I think I was at 160 mm. I was just playing around with this, and on a whim I said, okay, let's just do a burst mode. So I was shooting at maybe 20 fps or something like that. And then of course there was a lot of culling I did in between to get enough separation between their positions. But in the end, this is like a time compression, if you think, of those flight paths.
How many birds were this in total? 2, 3, 4?
Probably I would say more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 8 or 10, but I could be wrong. Yeah, somewhere around 6 to 8.
Yeah, very, very well done in that. There is always an intrinsic pattern within nature. And sometimes the patterns are obvious, and sometimes like this, it is not until you do something creative to bring forth that pattern. And I think you've done a great job in that. It automatically opens up the question. First time anybody looks at it, it's like, whoa, hold on, what is this? And slowly, you get drawn into the image to see all this beautiful pattern and of course the birds. So yeah, nice.
Thanks a lot. And I was scared when I was taking these pictures. I was thinking, okay, I am just filling up my card because I'm shooting at handheld at 20 fps at this long focal length. What am I doing? Again, thankfully with the IBIS and all that, I didn't have to do too much of realignment. Otherwise it would have been madness.
Brilliant. Well, anybody else has any other questions? Feel free to drop a message, or you can even come on line to ask a verbal question. I'll be on for another 15 odd seconds before we call it a day.
So Venkat is saying those trees are blooming all over Bangalore.
All over Bangalore, right yeah. This is a very beautiful time in Bangalore for those trees. The entire road gets a mood lift, and it just lasts for maybe a week or so. But beautiful time to drive. If you are not stuck in traffic, that is. All right, so I guess no more questions coming through, but thank you so much, Dr. Pinaki and Mahesh. It's been really wonderful to have you both on board and discuss two different styles of photography, very diverse, very orthogonal, and very beautiful. And for those of you who are interested in buying these images to explore their artistic potential to decorate your walls. They are available for sale on ArtBuRt's website, www.artburt.com/FNF, or you can even induce the buying from the exhibit app, either from your TV or from your mobile as well. So I think it's been great half an hour, or if I can say more than half an hour, 45 minutes of nice, thoughtful discussion on photography and photography styles. Thank you so much and have a nice day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arsha. Thank you.